Hello, everybody. Welcome to Moving on Monday. My name is Zach Lauderwasser, and I'm a health fitness specialist at the Health and Fitness Center at Humana Corporate Towers. Today, I'm going to be taking you through a 10-minute core workout. Feel free to share using hashtag MyStrength. All right, so let's go ahead and begin by creating some space for seated and standing exercises, and we will begin with the standing oblique crunch. So beginning in the standing position, feet about shoulder width apart, we will then raise our leg and attempt to make contact with the elbow on the same side. Alright everybody, so if you need to modify this exercise, what you're going to do is set up in the same way, except you're going to keep your feet on the ground this time. From here, you're just going to bend laterally, side to side, and use your hands and try to touch your knee on either side. So I'm going to be reminding you throughout this video that it's very important that we focus on engaging our core and keeping up with our breathing mechanics. It is important for our muscles and the performance of these exercises that we continue to breathe. Keep it up and keep it moving as we finish off these standing oblique crunches. Next, we're going to be moving into the standing crossovers. As we move into the standing crossovers, you're going to set up in the exact same way, except this time we're going to be going across our body with our elbows. So use your elbow and try to touch the opposing knee. We do have a modification for these guys too. So you're going to keep both feet on the ground just like you did in the first exercise, both arms behind your head, and you're going to use your elbow and attempt to touch the opposing hip. So we're going to keep up with this exercise for 45 seconds, so make sure that you're contracting the core and that you're keeping up with your breathing. Alright, so stick with it a little bit longer. We have about 10 more seconds of this exercise and then we'll be switching to the next. Alright, awesome job everybody. I can't see you, but I know you just absolutely knocked it out of the park. Next we're going to be going into some standing high knee raises. To perform this exercise, stand with your feet about hip width apart and you're going to hold your hands up at your chest. From there, you're going to attempt to raise your knees up to your hands. Should we need a modification for this exercise, we're simply going to set up in the exact same position. From here, we'll gently raise one foot off the ground, raising the foot to a comfortable height. From here, we'll hold this stance for a couple seconds and then bring the foot down and switch legs. Alright everybody, keep it up as we still have another 15 seconds or so. As per usual, I want you to be sure you're keeping up with your breathing and keeping those knees nice and high as we perform this exercise. Next up, we have the standing crossover. And in 3, 2, 1, we are now switching to the standing crossovers. Take a little breather as we move into our final standing exercise. We are repeating this movement from earlier, so it should look pretty familiar. That being said, I'm just going to give you a little refresher on how it's performed. Just like last time, you're going to stand with those feet about hip width apart, and from there we're going to put our hands behind our head. Then we're going to use our elbow and attempt to touch the opposing knee. Don't forget, if you need to modify, you can keep your feet on the ground and simply use those elbows and still attempt to touch that opposing hip. Here we go. Keep it up and keep going. Keep those knees high. Give it your best effort as this is our last standing exercise before our first 30-second break. And 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. There we go, everybody. We have our first 30-second break. Get some water right now if you need it. Shake it off. And next we're going to be going right into the lying toe touch. Let's go ahead and take this time to clear some space on the floor as the rest of the exercises we'll be doing over the course of this workout will take place on the floor. We have about 10 seconds left. I hope you grab some water as we're moving into our next series of exercises. First one being the lying toe touch. We're going to start this exercise by laying on our back with our arms overhead and legs out straight. From here, you'll raise your right arm and your left leg and make contact by touching your opposing foot with your hand. After returning your arm and leg to the ground, you'll repeat the same motion on the other side. Should we need to modify this motion, we'll do as you see here, and we'll leave our legs on the ground while we alternate, reaching our arms up towards the sky. It is important in either version of this motion that we are sure to engage our core as we reach for our foot and we're not just raising our limbs up and down off the ground. Prepare to switch exercises as we do only have about 3 more seconds until we move on to the lying windshield wipers. Congrats everybody, we're still alive. Just hang out there as this next exercise will take place on your back. So to perform this exercise, we're going to bend our knees and plant our feet on the ground while lightly crunching to either side, attempting to make contact with our hands to our feet. A solid modification to this exercise would be to simply extend those legs and perform the exact same motion of a slight lateral bend to either side, this time attempting to make contact with your hand to your knee. I know it's difficult to do as it's like drawing air into a steel tank, but we do need to be sure to try to keep up with our breathing as we're performing this exercise. Keep it up as we head into our last 5 seconds before performing the next exercise, which is a torso twist. There we go. Enjoy your second of relief and then go ahead and sit up for me as this next exercise will take place in a seated position. To perform the torso twist, we're going to put those feet together and then raise them off the ground. We're then going to rock back slightly and then use our hands placed together also to reach to either side of our body with a nice twisting motion. Should you need to modify, no worries. Just put those legs straight out in front of you and we're going to perform the exact same motion. So we're going to lightly rock back again until we feel our core is engaged and then use those hands to reach to either side of our body. Something to keep in mind as we perform either of these motions is that if we don't get that slight backwards lean, we're not going to be engaging our core as much as we could. So to get the most out of this exercise, be sure you're leaning back enough to fully engage that core. Hang in there just a second longer and breathe it out for a second before we move into the leg lifts. So the leg lifts are also going to be performed in that lying position. What you're going to do is hold your legs out straight in front of you and then we're going to raise them off the ground as high as you can, maintaining that straight leg position the whole time. We have a modification for this exercise too if needed. So you're going to get back up into that seated position and then while holding your legs straight, alternate raising one leg off the ground at a time. Some people may experience some slight pain in the low back while performing this exercise, so if needed, feel free to place your hands under your hips to prevent any excessive lumbar extension. Alright, hang in there as we approach our last 5 seconds before our next 30-second break. 3, 2, 1, there we go. Shake it off and enjoy that last break before our last group of exercises. Before we finish up our workout here, now would be a good time to go grab some water and then we'll return to the floor as our last group will take place on the ground. If you're still with me, that's great. I'm proud of you. We're going to finish up strong. I'll give you some foresight into what's coming. We are going to start our last circuit with mountain climbers. So let's go ahead and gear up on the floor and enjoy the last 10 seconds or so of this break. If you've never performed mountain climbers before, don't worry. I just know you're going to love them. You're going to set up in the push-up position with your shoulders positioned directly over your hands and your hips in line with your shoulders. From there, you're going to alternate bringing that knee up past your waist and making contact with the ground with your foot. If you need a modification for this exercise, don't worry, we got you. So I'm using a stand here, but this could just as easily be a desk or a chair. If you are using a rolling chair, just be sure it doesn't roll away from you. With the modification, I still want you to set up in the same way in that your shoulders will be positioned over your hands, but this time I want you to keep your hips just a comfortable distance away from the desk. Aside from that, you're going to perform the exercise the exact same way by alternating hiking those feet up. Hang in there just another 5 seconds or so. Next we'll be performing the side plank hip drop. And there we go. As we transition, I just want you to roll over onto your side and go ahead and get that forearm on the ground. And I also want you to stack your feet. From here, you're just going to raise your hips so you're forming a nice straight line from your head down to your feet, and then lower your hips back to the ground. To modify, we're simply going to bend that leg that's closest to the ground to about 90 degrees. This is just going to remove some of the resistance from this exercise. We'll be switching sides in about 3, 2, 1, and switch. We'll go ahead and roll over and perform about 20 seconds on the other side of the body. Let's go ahead and set up and go. The same principles apply. We just want to be very sure that our hips aren't too far back, that our head isn't too far forward, that we're really forming that nice strict straight line from foot to head. Again, if you need to modify, don't be a hero. Just bend that bottom knee and perform that side plank to the best of your ability. We'll be rolling over onto that stomach in about 2, 1, there we go. We're switching to Superman. To perform this exercise, you will be laying on your front, but from there we're going to be engaging everything in your posterior chain, which is just a fancy word for backside. From that laying position, you're going to gently raise everything off the ground. You will feel this exercise predominantly in the low back, glutes, and hamstrings, but I also want you to think about engaging those rear shoulders and upper back. In doing so, we're ensuring that we're getting the best bang for our buck by engaging the entire body, while also promoting a nice global arch of the spine instead of a strict bend at the low back. Feel free to take breaks as needed. A lot of people find this movement difficult as we tend to only focus on the front side of our core. If not, I'm going to ask you to hang in there about another 10 seconds or so before we move on to our last exercise, the plank. Here we go. 3, 2, 1, and switch. All right, I'm sure a lot of us are familiar with the plank, but if not, let's go ahead and set up on our forearms and feet. From there, we're just going to lift our hips up off the ground and make sure everything is aligned. Our shoulders should be positioned over our elbows, our hips in line with our shoulders, and a nice straight line from the shoulder down to the foot. If we find this position difficult, no worries. We're just going to drop the knees down to the ground, but all the same principles still apply. Instead of forming the straight line from shoulders down to feet, we're going to form a straight line from shoulders down to knees. I still want the shoulders positioned over the elbows, however, and that core should still be engaged. Throughout the exercise, we're going to use some of that mental power to really focus on keeping rigidity throughout the body. Think about squeezing the glutes and keeping that core as tight as you can. Hang in there as we only have about 3 more seconds left. 2, 1, done. Good work, everybody. Very proud of you. Thanks for participating. Feel free to take this time to check out some of the great perks that come with being a member of Humana Health and Fitness Centers. Those being things like discounted rates for Humana associates, more opportunities to earn Go 365 points, fitness challenges every month, and biometric updates on things like height, weight, blood pressure, and much, much more. Be sure to keep an eye out for upcoming events. Our next Moving on Monday will take place on September 25th. We also have a couple different WellFit webinars to keep an eye out for. We have the Perfect Day, Tangible Solutions to Fit It All In on September 21st, and also Implementing Regeneration Strategies taking place on October 19th. Thank you all. Have a great Monday.